the God of the Old Testament had a wife?
No. We have no textual data that depicts the God of the Hebrew Bible as having a wife. What actually happened was in Israel's pre-exilic times, some Israelites disagreed with biblical theology and thought God had a consort named Asherah. The biblical authors and editors explicitly reject this as an act of rebellion and heresy. They never depict the God of the Hebrew Bible as having a wife. That was a different theology from Israel's pre-exilic times.
Until we discovered that ancient Israelites actually worshipped a woman alongside Yahweh.
Okay, this is not a recent discovery. The biblical authors admitted this was going on in pre-exilic times, so we've known about this for millennia.
An 8th century BCE inscription was found on pottery in the Sinai desert.
This is a reference to the famous Yahweh and his Asherah inscription found on Sinai at what could be a shrine, but in all likelihood was probably just a road station, and it was frequently visited by people from the northern kingdom of Israel. And the biblical authors tell us that the majority of the people of the northern kingdom of Israel were not worshiping God properly and were practicing idolatry. But this does not show the God of the biblical canon originally had a wife that was edited out of the Bible. This would be like assuming that because we found the Gospel of Judas, it shows the Orthodox New Testament canon was originally more Gnostic. But the Gospel of Judas does not show that. All it shows us is there were different religious views about Jesus in the 2nd and 3rd century AD. And likewise, all this inscription shows is that there were different views about the nature of Yahweh in the 8th century BC, which again the biblical authors have admitted and interpreted as rebellion.
So Asherah was not entirely edited out of the Bible. Traces of her do remain.
Okay, this is being presented as if it's a fact, and it's not. It's an hypothesis that some scholars have about the nature of the biblical text, but we have no explicit textual data that shows that Asherah was painted in a positive light in biblical texts and then was later edited out. There's a competing hypothesis that the biblical texts preserve a very early tradition of early Israelite monolatry directed at Yahweh.
It makes me question, what else have we edited out? What else have we lost?
And this is the problem with presenting some of these hypothesized reconstructions as if they've already been proven when they have not been. People start jumping to conclusions about how biblical theology has been edited or changed for which we don't have sufficient textual evidence for. Scholars have presented hypotheses that biblical theology has been modified over time, but these have not been proven. These are educated guesses. And of course, conservative scholars have presented a lot of evidence that biblical theology has not been drastically modified over time, and that the biblical canon preserves very early traditions about monolatry in Israel that taught the uniqueness of Yahweh.